it's Bree. Welcome to my channel. Today I'll be talking about my natural birth experience. I know for some it might not be a very fun topic for you, but for others this might help them. I'm simply sharing my tips and what I learned along the way of my natural birth. So the first thing was, Chris and I, my husband, he has a channel by the way, it's called Middleman. Anyways, he and I decided to get educated. So we paid for classes, birth boot camp classes. We wanted to know everything about natural birth and why it might be right for us. I think we actually ended up doing it towards the finish line. So we kind of crammed a few classes in together and went from there. So we did a lot of relaxation exercises, a lot of pelvic exercises. We learned why this might be right for us. We learned the risks involved. We learned so much about this. So we basically we just went over pretty much everything that had to do with natural birth. We even went as far as watching videos on natural birth. Like I said, it might not be some people's cup of tea. It doesn't gross me out at all. It was really interesting to me because I was going to go through this experience in just a few months and I wanted to know what other people had done, and I knew it was common because I met so many people surprisingly who have given natural birth. So I saw a doctor the first few times, actually I think it was one time, and her and I just were on the same page, so I just decided to bridge over and see an actual midwife. A midwife mentioned she typically will not see a high-risk client. So they had thought I had some blood clotting issue, just hereditary, because a lot of my family had it, and they ruled it out, so I didn't have that. So she said, you know, as far as everything goes, you're pretty clear to see me. So I decided to see her, and I was happy I was able to see a midwife because that's what I really ultimately wanted. I had nothing against doctors. The midwife I saw, I really clicked with, and we were on the same page about my birth. So it all went from there. So after I was educated on everything, I decided the girl that had taught us, I decided to hire her as my doula. So, and she had gone through natural birth herself. In fact, she did a water birth. So I decided to hire her as my doula. So we were all pretty much prepared. I went in that day for a checkup, and I had told Chris, I was like, I'm feeling a lot of pressure. Something doesn't feel right, but I couldn't tell if I was being like my usual dramatic self where I was worried because I was hurting, or if there was just, you know, something really wrong. Because when I was first pregnant, like every single thing I was worried about. So I went in and she's like, oh, well, you're already at a 7 or something like that. She said I was pretty dilated. So they took me back and I was like, cool, yeah, perfect. I was kind of freaking out though. I was freaking out because I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? No, I am not giving natural birth. I will say waffles smeared in butter are probably not the best thing for you while you're pregnant to have consistently every work shift. So if you're a server, just think about that. If you're a server at a pancake house. But so I got there, my contractions got scared away. They just laughed. But they came back, thankfully. And then there was a point where they're like, do you want to use a birthing ball? I tried that and I kind of moved around and I moved my hips around. That really helped just kind of relax me. I was kind of swaying on this relaxation ball, and Chris started massaging me, and he also started putting counter pressure on me. So when my cramps would push, he would push right back, and it literally made it disappear. You know, and then I started shaking because I was really, really nervous. When I get nervous, I shake. The nurse just was there. She was kind of talking me through it. My doula, she was my cheer on her. She was giving me really, really good, positive feedback. It was tolerable at this point. You know, I was doing my thing. I was swaying. I wasn't trapped to the bed. And I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be in the bed. For some reason, I needed to be up. I wanted to be moving. I wanted to be active. I had to move my muscles. I had to, you know, open them up, move them. So it came to a point where I said, hey, I want to get in the bath. I want to get in the tub. I want to relax in there. So my doula's like, okay, well, let me go fill it up. So I went and got in the bathtub. Chris went with me, and I said, hey, can you grab my computer? I want to listen to some music. It feels so good to be like having contractions, but then you can just sit in water. You feel so weightless. It feels amazing. I got to a point where I had to kind of zone out, and I shut my eyes and I was just moving from side to side, like humming. And I was like, it might have looked awkward, but you know, I will say I wore a bathing suit and I just ripped those bottoms off. Those bottoms were gone. The only people I wanted in that room were my nurses, my doula, and my husband. Because I think modesty just kind of went out the door, considering my pain levels and everything. And they also had to check and stuff. They had to check a few things. So after being in the water for a while, my midwife checked me and she's like, hey Brie, you know, you've been in there a while. Because I kept like turning the water on and off with my toes. I would just like turn it on, drain it, let that cold water run out, and then turn it off, this, that. I kept doing that. I wanted to stay in there for as long as I could, and I told my doula, I was like, please don't let me get out. Like, don't let them get me out of here. I need to stay in here. And my midwife's like, you can't stay in there that much longer. Like, I can't let you give birth in there. I need you to be out here so I can catch a baby, make sure you're okay if anything happens. And, just so much going on. So finally I was in there and the nurses were checking me, and finally my midwife comes in. She's like, hey, you're like super extra close. Like, I can't have you in the bathtub. You need to get out. And I was like, ugh. So finally I hopped up. We made our way over to the bed. I kind of started swaying, but eventually it got to a point where I was like, and she's like, hey, just so you know, there's going to be a baby here in a few minutes. You need to focus right now. This is the time and this is it. You're going to have a baby in a few minutes. So whatever you do, focus on this. And this is past the point of like asking for an epidural. Like, and she's like, okay, well, start pushing. These contractions got a lot more intense. So I'm pushing, and finally she's like, you know what, I need to break your bag. So she put this, like, it looks like a huge Q-tip almost, like one for like a giant. My midwife went up and broke my water. After that, never at one point was I like, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. I don't think I allowed myself to say that. So I kind of focused on that, and then there was one point where she's like, hey, you know, you're having so much back labor. Let me give you still water injections, I think they were called. And it was just still water, I guess, or some kind of water. Look, I can give you these injections and then it'll numb you for just a little bit, but it'll go away eventually. And she's like, here's the catch though. It feels like a bee sting. And I was like, oh God. I was like, to add to the pain. I was like, I looked at Chris and I was just kind of like, make the decision for me. And I think I even looked at my doula and I was like, but ultimately I ended up saying, okay, that's fine. And she ended up putting the still water injections in my back. I finally calmed down a little bit, and I kind of got it together. I was like, okay, it feels better, you know. And she's like, okay, Brie, now you need to push, you know, with every contraction, take it in and push. I can't remember if someone had given me a pep talk or if something was happening. My husband was looking me in the eyes, and it was so, still this moment really is so important to me, because that was such a good time in my life. And you never forget your first birth, but you also never forget looking in your husband's eyes as you're pushing. I have so much pushing. But we sailed right through it, and then eventually, you know, she was like, push. Finally, little Lily came out after what feels like 6 years, and she was so perfect. It was just like this little bundle of love and heaven and all above, and they had given her to me. And Chris got to catch her, and he got to cut her cord, and he got to do all that fancy stuff, and they put her right on skin to skin, right on my chest, which is what I wanted. She was crying, so I latched her quickly. My goal was to breastfeed for a while. I'll have another video on all of that experience. But it was beautiful. Also, guys, I do have 2 little ones, so I will have a part 2 of this video. I hope this video was inspirational or real or helpful in any way. Pictures kind of helped give you more of a visualization. Thankfully, my amazing doula took photos while she was there. Not only my doula, but she was my birth boot camp instructor, doula, photographer, and a friend. And you know, it was an incredible experience. So that's my crazy natural birth story. I'm so thankful to everyone that watched this video and listened to me ramble on. I love telling this story because it was just something in my life that I feel like was such a staple. I hope if you have any questions or any comments regarding natural birth that you leave them below. I will answer them ASAP. I'd love to hear more from you guys. I will have more videos coming up soon, and I will talk to you guys later.